You don't have to
There we
wait
go.
until it says normally.
It should be going live now.
Beautiful.
You're live. Well, in the time-honoured way, Dave, I think we're live. You know what it's like? You're never absolutely sure. You press all the buttons, you do all the checks beforehand, and you kind of think you're live. YouTube
Yes.
tells you you're live. So we're going to assume we are live.
Hello,
And
world.
well, and I mentioned on the post day, because we were hoping to get together, but then unfortunately, sometimes real life does catch up with us people that try to play around on YouTube, and there's things like kids and families and stuff like that to consider. But luckily, your kids are broken up from school now, so you've got a bit of time free this afternoon.
Indeed, indeed. I'm still
So,
working, but I'm going out to do more of that tonight. That's fine.
so is that your day job you're working at the moment? Your actual job?
It is. It is. Running around selling whiskey to bars.
There does sound to be worse jobs. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure it's not quite because it's JD, isn't it? It's Jack Daniels. You,
Yeah.
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 And I'm sure there's a downside to it. But when you first told me that, it sounds like a pretty damn good job to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the drinks industry for nearly 25 years now. So, yeah, I've just been doing this. It's like second nature for me. I was bartending for years and years and years, and now
Hmm.
I just go and talk to bartenders. And luckily, I can sort of speak their language rather than being all salesy, which is
And
quite
sell
nice.
them the wares.
Indeed.
So before, because these things often take a little while just to sort of for people to join in and so on. So while we're waiting for people to beat down a door, I
Mm-hmm.
was just going to mention that I said to you just before we started recording that last weekend, for the first time ever, in YouTube Studio, you've got those different tabs you can check. Optimistically, earnings is one of them. I tend to skirt over that. But then I had this red dot on copyright, and I thought, I'm sure I haven't done anything bad. I've bought all my music. I pay Epidemic Sound and can't have any copyright strikes. Shoot all my own B-roll. So I went in there, and it turned out that somebody had actually taken an entire video of mine, the complete thing, start to finish, hadn't altered the thing of it, and just dubbed it with what I assume was some maybe Turkish or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was an odd one because I've never had to fill out the copyright claim form before.
So you're going
So
international now.
oh yeah, it seems that way. Well, YouTube Studio optimistically tells me that my main audience, both of them, are in America. So apparently I'm international, and apparently people want to steal my videos internationally. But it's odd
Yeah.
because I must say though, the good thing was that YouTube did come down really, really quickly on it. It was a fairly simple form to fill. Have you ever had him on, Nick, any of yours?
No, I say that. Somebody did set up like a clone channel of my channel at one point and put it up. And we did a report. I don't think we had a form to fill in at the time. I don't know if that's just changed over time, but yeah, it was quite quick and just disappeared.
So when you say clone the channel, what was
So
actually?
this would have been in my first year, I think, and they literally like set up another channel with the same name, same logo, started uploading my videos to it,
Oh.
and then commenting in the comments section of my videos to people. Which I mean, it wasn't Telegram, it wasn't the classic "you've won a prize" thing,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was still quite annoying because I was like, I haven't responded to these people,
And then
and
suddenly
I
your name.
I
You,
reply to every video. I
yeah,
reply to every comment on the video still,
I do that as
and
well.
yeah, it was just confusing because I was like, but I didn't write this, but it looked exactly like me. So yeah, it was very confusing.
I know that. I mean, why people, if they're going to put the time and effort into being online, creating content, I know that's saving them creating, but surely the pleasure is in the pride that knowing you've made that thing. I'd have
I
thought.
mean, the pleasure is also, I guess, in the check when that arrives. But I mean, it's
I've had
at
one.
the
I've
moment.
had one.
I think we're making about the same amount of money at the moment, if I'm honest,
Yeah,
because I've been very inactive. However, like the recent stuff I've been doing has been around VR and stuff, which has been quite fun.
yeah,
Because I did a little partnership with a company called Pico,
yep.
which have been really fun. They sent me over a headset, and I've been playing with it for weeks. It's been really fun.
And your shorts do quite well as well, don't they?
Some of them, I mean, occasionally. The one that I did recently that did well was obviously Battersea, which I'm guessing is the one you're talking about.
Yep, yep, yep.
But I don't do that many shorts. I originally, when I first started doing my videos, doing the daily news stuff, I intentionally tried to keep every um, subject under a minute,
Hmm.
so that I would then be able to kind of repurpose it onto
Clip it. Yeah.
Instagram and stuff like that. But we didn't have shorts, I don't think, when I first started. It was right
Mm.
at the beginning of the pandemic. TikTok existed, but it wasn't a thing that I was thinking about at that point. But I mean, I just haven't been able to have time to make enough videos recently.
Shorts are strange insofar as well. I certainly don't get anything that pops immediately. Nothing that I do goes well immediately.
Mm.
But even the longer form videos, I mean, the last one I did for me has done pretty well. You know, it's
Hmm.
up to just over 6,000 views now, and it's earning a bit of revenue, so it's beginning. But it's the same with shorts. I had somebody comment on a short yesterday that I shot in November. And you know what it's like. You don't go back and look at your numbers on those, and suddenly I saw it's like 5, 6, 700 views on something just about 5G speeds in London. It's really
Hmm.
odd with, and so, I forget who it was, but somebody told me that these shorts can just sit there and suddenly they'll just be
Just
picked up
yeah,
on.
it's very much kind of stairs on the graphs for these things. It doesn't seem to work in the same way that the long form stuff does. The long form stuff, for me at least, because it tends to be news, is like straight up and then flat in most cases. But I've got a couple of videos, like the one that I did for the MacBook Air, which we're chatting on at the minute, because it had the midnight finish. It was when that was first released
So the
last
fingerprints.
WWDC.
Yep.
No, it was more about the wear, like because it's aluminium that's anodized,
Right. Okay. So
and
around the USB-C sockets, ports, and
yeah.
things.
So
Yeah.
I did a video on it right away because I used to play paintball quite sort of semi-professionally, and the markers that we used there were anodized aluminium as well, like the frames. And you would see that people that had been playing with a particular marker for a while, they would get scuffed up, and you would get kind of almost like a patina, so they were lighter on the raised edges. Um, and so I did a video about this, like all shot pretty much, I think, with the MacBook Air. I can't remember if that was the same one, but that's sitting at around about 65,000 views now, and
Wowzers.
it's made me like a decent
Yeah.
chunk
It would do. Yeah.
towards the MacBook Air, which was the sort of intention. And actually, it is holding up way better than I expected. Like around the USB-C ports, there's no damage at all. There's no silver, but around the front edges, just because it's such a like perfect corner, it is starting to show a little bit
Just
of
some what
silver through.
wrist wear kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seems to
Yeah.
be, and it is just on like the outer edges. I've got one little nick on it, but otherwise it's held up really well, like way better than I expected.
Because I'm at the same position as you, kind of thing, in that all the stuff I'm buying is costing me deeply out of my own pocket. I haven't got to the point yet where any of my videos have made anywhere near enough to
Nah.
buy content. But it's kind of that weird dichotomy you find yourself in. I think if you're deciding to try and make something of this, you've got to invest a bit, haven't you? You've got to buy some stuff because otherwise the channel becomes boring.
Hmm.
And you need viewers to watch because they want to see something new and learn about something, a new whatever kind of tech or gadget we're talking about. So that's why partly behind the nothing that I bought, the nothing 2,
Hmm.
because obviously with Apple at the moment, really the only thing going on is seeding betas and releasing the odd update, which we'll get to. We will be
Yes,
getting to that very, very certainly. That's terrible English. Very certainly, we'll be getting to that
very
most certainly,
certainly.
very certainly. But yeah, you kind of keep thinking, well, when do I stop spending? And it's when I started out, I said, no, I'm just going to use what I've got. I'm going to use my iPhone as the camera. Now I've got a Canon. I was going to use the little makeup light I had. Now I've got chuffing great big huge lights around me here. You just go on and on. And unfortunately, if you want to look halfway good on your channel, equipment does matter.
Whereas I went completely the opposite way and started with a Lumix 4K like mirrorless, and now I use the iPhone because,
Because you're on the.
to be
Let's
honest,
talk
I
through.
think it looks better.
Let's talk through your setup because you are on. Well, you're on the MacBook Air then at the moment.
Yep. So yeah, I'm the consummate professional, and 3 minutes before we went live on this, I was still moving lights around and all that sort of stuff. So this studio, which actually now looks a bit more like a studio, a bit more than last time we spoke. So I think that was
Yep,
just before I did all this
it
reset.
was indeed. Yep.
So they used to be, the old door was there, and my desk used to be on this side. Um, the desk itself is one of these like up and down flexi spot desks,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
standing
yeah, yeah.
sit stand one,
Sit stand ones. Yeah.
which they sent me, which was fantastic because that was quite early in the channel. I think it was about 5,000 to 6,000 viewers at the time. Um, but yeah, what we're working with here at the minute is MacBook Air, the M2 version. I did go for the extra storage, but I didn't go for the extra RAM.
Okay.
Don't
So what
think
you
it
got? Eight
needs it.
gigs on it. 8 gigs.
So 8 gigs of RAM, 512 storage, and I
Yep.
went up to the full fat, like the non-binned chip. And then we're using a continuity camera iPhone 14 Pro with this little microphone in it,
Which does look
which
gorgeous.
I
Let me
think
just
was
have a-
a yeah, this microphone was a solid £14, I think, from eBay. No, from Amazon, and then that's plugged straight into the iPhone using the little Lightning dongle thing.
Yeah. yeah, yeah.
And it's all suspended on a Joby Gorilla Pod.
Oh, so you're not using the continuity mount then? It goes on.
No, I don't have one.
I've got
That's
one of
that's
them.
why
I
I'm
have got
looking
one.
up here, because that's where you are.
I have got one of those, and it has been useful a couple of times. I've been out and I needed to make sort of content quite quickly. Again, I have used the continuity camera. That was one of their great features they released. That is so well underused by me. Obviously, you do get regular because you shoot all of your videos for the channel on the iPhone 14, don't you?
Certainly do.
Yeah, which goes to show how good it is. And talking of lives, it's very quiet this week. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, is there nobody watching? I don't
We
know
haven't
because
got
I can't
anybody at the
see any
moment.
of that.
No,
Oh
we
well.
haven't. Generally, people pop up and come along. I've had a few
Well, it's
regulars.
normally me, isn't it?
That's my secret gone.
I've ruined it.
But we'll just carry on chatting. Also, you are the king of live stream because
King of
you
live stream?
well,
Maybe
what
not
was
quite.
well your first super chat was Prosser J,
Yes, it was. Yes,
which
John
is a
Prosser
pretty
jumped in.
cool little story. How did you
Yes,
get John to come on then?
I did. Well, I didn't. He just turned up. He was just watching the channel. So I think it was just the amount of content that was pumping out during lockdown, because I was one of these lockdown creators that started
Yep,
off then, and I started off doing literally 5 days a week. 8 to 10 minute videos, 3 news stories, because there was plenty to talk about. It was the
yep.
summer that Apple Silicon was happening.
So everybody wanted to know about Apple Silicon.
Yeah, and we were talking through all of the rumors that whether it was going to be the 12-inch MacBook that got an iPhone processor, or what the plan was going to be. And yeah, because there was so much out there to talk about. Luke Miani predicted the performance of the M1 basically within about 2%, because he just extrapolated what an A14X would have been.
Right, yep.
And I've been having some chats on Twitter the last few days with the guys from Constant Geekery that are like, oh no, it's not the A14X. I was like, kind of is though, isn't it? Yeah, I know they've added some extra bits. Yeah, they had to put in the hypervisor, and they had to put in, other bits and bobs like the Thunderbolt controllers and all those bits that they wouldn't have put in an A14X. But in terms of cores and graphics and the performance, it's basically what would have been an A14X, which is why it surprises me when everyone's like, oh, the iPad doesn't need an M1. Well, it would have got it anyway.
Would have got it, yeah.
It's got a different label on it.
So and that live stream we're talking about, the one
Yes.
where Prosser donated, weren't you on for 6 hours or something crazy?
Oh, so the first super chat that we got was from John Prosser just watching one of my videos.
Oh, right, okay.
And then because of this, I was able to then message him on Twitter and be like, "Thank you so much. I'm going to be doing this 6 hour live stream because Gary Vaynerchuk, you may have heard of him, Gary V. So I've been up until the last couple of weeks is when I've actually stepped back from it properly. I was running the admin side of First in Line on Facebook, which is his Facebook group. And as a thank you for that, I got to have like a 10-minute chat with him. I think he was in a car, like, he's between meetings because he does like 6-7 minute meetings in different places because he's so busy and so productive. But one of the questions I asked him was like, right, I want to sort of celebrate the fact that I've been doing this for a year. What would you suggest? And he was like, well, if it wasn't the pandemic, I would have said do like a live event. But as it is, do like a long live stream. And so basically I did. And I messaged John first and said, would you be willing to come on for like 15 minutes? And he said yes. And then I took that yes from John and went to a bunch of other creators and said, John Prosser's coming on this live stream. Would you mind coming on for another 15-minute slot? So I did 6 hours.
That is intense.
I think it was 6. Yeah, it was 6, because then everyone was asking me to do 12 the next time. I was like, I was dying at the end of 6. And this was all run off the M1 Mac Mini. So that was pretty intense. I think I was using the regular camera for this one.
Right.
And that was like a Lumix G7, I want to say, 4K one. It was quite cheap. It was all right, but the autofocus on it was horrific. It was one of these ones that just hunt and pecks all the time. And that was the main reason that I moved away from it. I actually moved to the 12 Pro Max originally. It was as soon as they put LiDAR on it, which did the autofocus for you because it knows how far away you are. It's absolutely, it made such a big difference. And now the low light capabilities of the iPhones are so much better, because I mean it's not bright in this room. There is a little bit of daylight over there. Then I've got a newer light, obviously. Newer is everyone's favourite.
That's why I've got a newer above me here.
And then there's a little kind of colourable one over here, which is like purple, but I don't think that's actually doing much with this live stream. I'm normally standing a bit closer to it when I film, but I actually got a chair out today. Thought it'd be luxurious.
Yeah, sit down, relax the bones a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, this studio is like super jank thrown together. It's the boiler room of my house. Every so often the boiler kicks in and then I have to wait for it to shut up. And then the waste pipe from the bathroom runs down through the other corner of it, because that bit used to be outdoors, and it used to have a porch that the previous occupants have moved.
So this is
the wall
side
out. So.
The side they don't see of YouTube. What we have to do to try and make things this side of the camera look good, or this side of the camera look good. I mean, it's what goes on behind there.
In here.
Yeah, tell me about it. Because a few weeks ago, I think you were actually chatting online, and the camera just suddenly went, and I can only assume it was heat. Why? I don't know. It was warmer that day anyway, and I did have the windows shut. My old sort of radio habits mean I try to get as quiet. And then I've now decided a little bit of road noise is probably worth having.
Preferable
It keeps
to
the
dead
camera.
cameras.
So I've got a window wide open behind the camera, hoping just to get a little bit of cooling air coming through onto it. So, so I guess we could start talking iOS.
Yes, let's.
So I know you're kind of abreast with my tweets, and I did lose my jizzles a little bit yesterday. So basically what happened was, normally I have a charger by my bedside. I only mentioned that because, of course, updates normally get done when the phone is on power and not being used, and on Wi-Fi. Perfectly, which is why it doesn't normally overnight. And normally that's when mine happen, and I've got all of updates on all of my devices, and I've always been absolutely fastidious about it. I even go hunting them out to make sure that they are up to date. Yes, that was all a bit different. My daughter had been home for the weekend, charger wasn't in my bedroom. So what happened was, long story short, came in here and threw the iPhone on the Belkin MagSafe charger. Went and made coffee, got showered, So thus it was then on charge. So I'd use the phone in bed, just checking things in the morning, like you do, going to Twitter and Instagram and checking the bank that had any money in it at all, that kind of thing, and then threw it on charge in here. Come in here, and I went to get my phone, and it said no, wrong passcode or something, or not iPhone not available, I think it was, or unavailable. And I thought, that's odd. And they said it gave me a 5-minute lockout. So I thought, okay, maybe because I was doing it hard, we all do it automatically. It didn't do my face, I recognise it wanted the passcode, but occasionally that's happened. Occasionally it does ask for the passcode rather than Face ID. So I thought nothing of it, tried it again. No, and every time it's getting longer on the delay. So this time it was a 10-minute delay. Next time, and by this point I was doing it so slowly, I knew I was putting in the right passcode. I was trying to think of everything, and on the phone's screen it gave me this one of Apple's websites saying, if you need help, go here. So I went onto it, and it said the only way to get around this is a full reset. And I was thinking, that sounds really extreme for this situation. That sounds, not being outside this place to have to do a full reset. Anyway, I then did the thing we all hate to do, particularly as blokes, and that's phone and ask for help. So I phoned Apple Care, and the call didn't start well when even phonetically she couldn't get my Apple ID spelt correctly. We spent probably 5 or 6 minutes just going through that letter by letter by letter. Finally, we got into my account, and she said, yeah, it's going to have to be a full reset. And I was absolutely baffled. And I said, but why? Nothing's changed my side. Anything your side? She just happened to mention then, 16.6 went up overnight. Aha! I thought, so right, something has changed. That was the nugget that I hung on to. Now, obviously, I said to her, so 16.6 could be responsible for this. And it was just this deathly silence. And all she came back with saying, I couldn't comment on that. Yeah. So I thought, right, that's the end of our customer care call then. Basically, you'll hang out to try.
There has been some sort of issue.
Yeah, now
that we've been told not to comment on.
Somebody on Twitter did say that, I'm assuming it's in the States because he said Verizon, or however you pronounce it, that he'd been into one of their stores and they had said to him, yeah, a number of people have been in this morning saying that there's been issues. Now, I didn't see anything else on Twitter. I'm assuming I was just terribly unlucky. But it was proper buggered. I mean, after the reset, as you know, that's only part of it. Yes, I got my phone back. Yes, I was able to get into it. But then, you know what Wi-Fi speeds are like in the UK. I was waiting for all the apps to download and install and do updates, of course. And then
the thing is, if that was 16.6 as well, that's not like it's beta software, right?
No,
that's the main full release.
Exactly that, which we're going to get onto in a minute.
This is how I've avoided it, because I'm on the iOS 17 beta.
Well,
Gone for the more reliable version,
which I really want to talk about, because I betas do interest me. So I'm going to get onto that with you in a minute. So But of course, getting the phone restored is less than half the battle. It was then I went to check the banks. Of course, okay, you got to go through all the ID, and you need endless, particularly for banks, you need endless amounts of passwords and passcodes and verifications. It goes on and on and on. Got into them by about 8 o'clock last night. It's getting a bit peckish. Went round to my local supermarket to get some food. No cards in the wallet.
Apple Pay's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, hadn't thought of that. Hadn't thought of it.
Oh, no.
And I was, by this point of the night, I was really chuffed off. And not only that, and I know this is going to go against me as well, Premiere Pro let me down badly yesterday too. For some reason, I was importing audio, video, and no audio was coming in at all. Never had that problem before. It just was not my day. It completely screwed my day. So it was just horrible from start to finish. And even today, I love tech like you do, and part of when I had to change cars recently, and when I did, I said, I want keyless entry on it. I want Apple to go into the Apple Wallet, so I've got it on there. Of course, I went down to the car this morning, no key for the car either. So
Unbelievable. So did you go BMW or Porsche? Because I'm sure those are the only two.
BMW. You will see the door of it in my last video, actually, when I show a bit of the phone unlocking it. It does. It's weird. I want to get a keyless, go keyless for my front door as well, and I will. It's just they're ridiculously expensive still at the moment.
And then you have to subscribe to half of them.
Oh, do you?
Some of them, yeah. They've got like subscriptions built in, so I don't know.
No, I didn't. I've had a couple of builders or lock people tell me it's sort of about £1,000. I think that's a lot of money. That's a real vanity point. As much as I love tech and I love the key, it's wonderful leaving the home. It's very liberating leaving the home with no keys.
Yeah.
But of course, I did sort of conclude in my blog yesterday that in a true brick glass half full kind of way, I got off lucky because all of this happened at home. So I had every password I could need on screens that I could refer to, wasn't trying to do it off the phone. I could come and get my car keys. Everything here was here, So if this had happened when I was out in town and gone, say, without the car key, for instance, I would have been really, really screwed. And Apple normally are so good on their releases.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps this is part of the reason that it only auto-updates at night while it's plugged in.
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
That might be a helpful sort of addition to it. But I mean, that does seem very strange that it would change your passcode somehow.
Yeah, it just did not want me to get into my phone at all. And even this morning, the watch updated this morning. And for some reason, you go onto the app on your phone first for the Apple Watch. That was just verifying in there for 30 minutes. I mean, I've just had a bad couple of days of tech, and then
watch updates always seem to take forever, and pairing. That's one of the things that doesn't have the magic to it. It's got that kind of great way of pairing it, where you kind of point it at the image, and then it comes up on the screen, and then it just sits there for a week. It seems like forever to pair the phones and watches, which is very strange.
Oh yes, I wasn't alone on that one then, because I was just thinking, here we go again. I didn't want another day of it. I'd sort of just about calmed down overnight. And things today have been, touch wood, much better. Much better. We had that little delay with the watch, but now I know that that's quite a common thing anyway from what you're telling me.
Yeah.
So, talking betas then. I should put betas on because it obviously give me good perspective and give me content to either make videos about or write about. I understand that, and that's partly why I'm thinking of doing it. But equally, everyone tells me, never do it on your main device. Now, you and I had a couple of messages last week, and you were saying, honestly, you haven't got anything too much to be afraid of. So walk me through that. Well, first of all, how do you become part of the beta program? I've never even gone that far.
So, in years past, you had to have, if you wanted to do the developer betas as opposed to the public betas, you needed to have a Apple developer account, and you basically paid, I think it was £79 a year. It's $99. It's something along those lines. And that's what I did for a little while. And then I sort of let that lapse because I was poor. That's what happens when you have children,
exactly,
as we all know. So I let that lapse and I just went over to the public ones. And I was planning to do the public ones this year, but obviously then I was doing a bit of writing for Supercharged and bits and bobs of other stuff. I'm not really writing for them at the minute, but I'm staying on the staff because there's some other stuff that we're working on for the future, fingers crossed. But yeah, so I was about to just wait for these public betas, and then I was about to go and join the developer program, and then the developer beta popped up on my phone. And I think after WWDC this year, they've basically changed it so that instead of having to have a paid developer account, you can just have a developer account.
So is
So
that a
there's two
separate ID
different
you create
versions.
then?
So no, you go into your Apple ID at developer.apple.com, and you basically say that you want to register your Apple ID for the developer program.
Right.
And in the past, you had to do like an annual subscription for this £79.99, whatever it was. Now, because the developer account is what lets you grab things like Xcode and use the simulators and all that sort of stuff. The subscription for it was for you to publish apps in the App Store. So you were
Oh,
able to get all of the developer tools for free, but not actually publish stuff for free. So
right.
it now seems that the free account on the developer platform lets you get all of these developer betas, and they appear differently in your phone. If your Apple ID is registered as a developer, instead of now having to install separate profiles for each of your devices, which used to be a bit of a pain, especially when you were having to do it for like Apple TV and stuff like that, where it's not, browser based and the usual stuff. And now it just comes up as a, do you want to enable developer updates? And you just go, yeah, and it's good. And it's been really stable.
Do you install them from the very get go? Because I understand they get more stable as they go along. Is that right?
Yes, typically. So my plan was this year to actually put the developer beta, which is what I've done for macOS, on Project 91, which is my Macintosh Classic with the M1 Mac Mini inside it,
Yep.
which is what I've done. So I don't have the developer macOS on my Mac, but I also have a work phone for work, which I don't put into the developer program. So that's literally the one that I use for my actual job.
Yep.
And then my personal phone, I am on the developer beta
And
from day one.
from day one.
Yeah.
So all these stories I hear about them getting really hot and possibly apps such as banking apps and things like that not working, you've not experienced any issues?
I haven't. So all I have had is reduced battery life. I will admit, from day one, it was worse. There's been a little bit of glitchiness around keyboards, is the one thing I would say that's been slightly irritating, but not like disabling. So if you're in messages, quite often you'll be typing away on your message, but the field that you're typing into is hidden behind the keyboard because it
Right.
hasn't scrolled it up with the keyboard when the keyboard comes into view.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
things like that. But all I've had to do that is literally go back to the sort of list of threads and back into the message, and it's back. So
Right, okay. So there's workarounds to it anyway. So
yeah, I
nothing
mean,
too heinous there.
no, I've really had very little. One of the Formula One games doesn't work at the minute, and you will get occasionally apps that just are not compatible. But it's not really. It's never Apple's own stuff. So if you use Apple's own apps to get your work done, you'll probably be fine. There will
So
be some glitchiness, but yeah.
as you're running them, you're in a great position to talk about how you're finding iOS 17. And
Yes.
I mean, some of the poster boys, I guess, are the contact posters,
I
the
haven't even noticed them yet.
the name
Because you have
drop,
to have it
which
coming from the other
from
side.
the other side as well, because obviously you need someone else who's 17, don't you? There's again name drop you won't be able to use yet
Yep.
either.
Not found it, not bumped into anyone running it yet.
Yep.
Which is, I should have thought about this and done it when we were in Battersea, because I'm sure there were people in that queue that had got iOS 17. We should
Oh,
have
there
been
would have
playing with
been,
it all.
wouldn't there? Yeah, you would have been in geek heaven
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah, because we'd got Sonoma already on the on the Macintosh Classic, so it was definitely out.
And there was one other. Oh, it was live voicemail or live. Yeah, it's live voicemail, isn't it? That's coming.
Yeah, the live voiceover stuff. Now I have made my personal voice thing.
Oh, you've done that, have you?
However, I can't seem to use it anywhere. I can't find how to actually get it to read my stuff out yet. But I've recorded all my voice and it says that it's processed, but I haven't been able to
Because
find
it
that bit
processes
yet.
on device, doesn't it?
It does.
So it's all
But
device side,
I
yeah.
think it took like 2 days though, while it was sitting on
I
charge.
I saw somebody's because they were joking. You can tell it's on device and not server side because of how long it takes to. Because it's about a 15-20 minute script you have to go through. It's a very
Yeah.
accurate script. Obviously, they're trying to get you to pronounce as many vowels, consonants, words, combinations as
Yes.
possible, I guess.
But the other thing is, it's not just that. It means that you can't just take someone else's speech and feed it into a system.
Right.
It has to be the exact words that it is asking you for. So you can't basically generate someone else's voice. I think that's like a security feature with it.
Right.
But it's also very much chopped up. So it's not like pages and pages that you're reading. It's a sentence at a time that comes up on the screen.
Right,
It
right.
listens, you speak, and then you can re-record it. Like if you stumble over your words, which I do quite often when I'm trying to read
Yeah,
stuff
I'm
that
like
I've
that.
not written. I'm a lot
Yep.
better if it's my own words that I've written onto a teleprompter because I know I've written it in my speaking voice. But but with something that's just very randomly sort of thrown together, um, yeah, it's quite tricky for me. I'm a little bit dyslexic and stuff, so yeah.
So, I mean, what are the other ones that I'm overlooking? And those are the three big ones I was thinking of would be the big ones when it does launch in a few
So
weeks'
there's
time.
interface tweaks in things like messages. So instead of having that little ribbon across the top of your keyboard for things like photos and videos and like the
Yeah,
app
yeah.
stickers and stuff,
Yep.
it's now like a pop up from the side. And they've just, I think, on the latest beta, also adjusted those icons so that they're a bit more standardized. Because the previously, like the photos was grabbing the last couple of images and putting them into a thumbnail on it so that it kind of shows you what you would be going to. But now they've changed it to
Right.
the app icon. I've noticed that they're using round app icons, a bit like the Apple Watch and also Vision. So I don't know if that's some sort of a sneak preview that they may change app icons to being round at some point in future, which I hope they don't, because then it'll look like Android and horrible. Although I know you're a fan Fandroid now, aren't you?
Oh,
So
we'll
you
get there. We'll get there.
traitor. Um,
No,
yeah.
honestly,
So
I'm still an Apple lover at heart. I promise you. It's
so
just
you
given me
say.
good. Yeah, I do. But the thing is, it was weird because it all started with our mutual Alex. I was over there recording the podcast a few weeks back, and he had a Pixel 7 kicking around. He
Yeah.
said, "Well, look, I'm not doing anything with it. Take it and make some content with it." And of course, then I was thinking, "Well, I'm an Apple boy. I can't be doing that. It's going to denature
Yeah.
the standing of my channel." And I thought, "Well,
I
my
mean, this
August,
is probably why your iPhone stopped working.
yeah, it's not been picked up enough yet."
It's noticed the proximity. It's like a find my kind of thing. It can see that there's an Android that's
Apple
nearby. It's
has
like, no,
detected, yeah.
I'm
It's got a
not
bad
having it.
smell in the house. It could well be something like that because it was literally as I got the second. I mean, now of course I've got two Androids here as well because I've got the Pixel
Feeling
and
outnumbered.
I've got this Nothing phone as well, which is what this week's video is going to be about.
Which has got all the innovations like lights.
It has got lights on it, yes, and I've made a full take on that as well. And I've kind of, without giving away too much about the video that's coming out late this week, I kind of said, with that phone, would it be a Barbie or an Oppenheim? Would it be fun or serious? And the iPhone is without doubt a serious workhorse, and I like that about it. It doesn't pretend to be what it's not. You pick it up and you know that you're going to do something meaningful with it. It's not kind of a frivolous toy type phone. It's a really good working device. And when you pick it up, and as we're seeing now, use the camera on it, when you go out and record video on it, you're getting really good quality footage. And it does its job well. So, you know, in my mind, that's the Oppenheimer. That's the serious,
Yeah.
that's the highbrow. And
You
nothing's
want it to work every time you pick it up.
exactly that. And that is partly why I got into a tiz yesterday, because I'm just not used to Apple not working. Like you, I'm surrounded in here. I've got an iPhone, MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and the studio display behind me. AirPods Max. Oh,
You don't want me to
HomePod.
do the list, do you?
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know what it's like. So I'm just used to Apple working all the time. And it's the first time that it seriously let me down. And it's like, how? Why would this happen? Because I'm very careful with things. I don't, and again, I'm very careful with updates because I believe most of these patches they send through are for security. And if it's security, that's good enough for me. I'll update all day long if it's security because we probably don't know half of what they're covering in the background, but it could be quite scary. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
if they're saying security, it's like, that's fine by me. I'll go and do it. And yeah, you're quite right. That's why I love Apple. It all works for me so well. The only thing, as Alex sort of gifted me the chance to try it, it sat here for 2 weeks before I bothered to do anything with it. And then I thought, well, this is stupid. I've got it sitting here. For goodness sakes, go and get. So I went and bought another card for it, and then I started to play with it and thought, you know what? Actually, it gives me a good comparison now to iOS because I've only ever used iOS since BlackBerry back in the early 2000s. So I've got no idea of if it was good or bad. It was just all I knew, and that's what I'm enjoying. That's the side that I'm really enjoying.
I mean, I would say I've not used Android sort of full time since 2017, something like
Oh,
that.
so
Which is
you
when
were
I had
an
a
Android
work
user
one.
then?
No, not by choice.
Right.
Who would be? I had, I had I think it was a Galaxy S8 or something like that, or an A8, in fact. A8, so it was their budget line. That was my work phone at a previous like drinks wholesaler that I worked for. Um, but I'd always had my first iPhone was actually the iPhone 4, 2010, which was just before I went to Dubai, which is before I got my first BlackBerry. Because if you're in Dubai in 2010, you cannot get by without a BlackBerry. That was just how you. That's how you rolled.
Right, right.
So I had to get one while I was out there, but I took my iPhone with me and just used it as an iPod basically, and my camera and stuff, because 720p camera on it, that was pretty good at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Even watching back some of the videos that I took on it back then, because it's all still on my camera roll, because that's how Apple works. I've got 13 years worth of my videos and my life on it.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I've been iPhone 4, iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 7 Plus, because that was when we first got the portrait mode stuff with the dual cameras, and then iPhone 10s, 12 Pro Max, 14 Pro not Max. That's my kind of phone journey.
One thing I've grown to like over this past week has been the larger screens. Both of these Androids have got the 6.7-inch screens,
You're
and
not
they
going to
are
be one of
nice
those
to work on.
foldable fans, are you? Next.
No, I haven't got the foldable yet. I was watching Samsung Unpacked today. Did you dirty your screen or not?
No, absolutely not. I've been working very hard. I wouldn't do such a thing. No, I was actually working all day. I've been doing admin stuff today, and then I'm out and
Right.
about this evening. But yeah, it's
So yeah, I mean that was basically from what I could see, it was the Fold was their big thing today, and I'm not going to make you talk Samsung. And
all right. It's all right. I'm sure
and-
they'll sell more than like 3 dozen of them one day.
and the new watch coming out as well. I saw, and everything seems to be hitting on August the 11th. So that's going to be the big drop date for that. But no, I mean it's the screen size. I wanted when I went to get this was the first phone I've ever bought outright. All the other iPhones have been on contract, and this one I thought no, I'll go and buy it outright on the premise that if I am going to take this semi seriously and begin reviewing the phones annually, or at least particularly that's got a terabyte storage on, it's and it's in perfect nick. I should get good money back on it. Yeah, exactly. So, there might be a month when I'm out of pocket for the price of new phone, but basically I know that I can sell that for good money.
Absolutely. This is one of my things that I've been saying for quite some time. Everyone was asking me, like, with Macs, for example, like, how do you kind of keep up to date on them? People were saying, like, I want a computer that's going to last me for 7 or 8 years. And I'm like, no, you don't. You want a computer that you're going to use for a year. And then when it gets replaced, keep it in good nick and resell it. Because that's the way to keep, and it keeps your costs down. Other than that initial outlay, like the Mac Mini that I had for 620 quid, something like that. 'cause I think we
Ridiculously
bought
good
it with
value.
education discount for the Mac Mini M1. That massively outperformed the 27-inch iMac that was a quad core with 24 gigs of RAM in it that I had from previous to that. And this M2 MacBook Air outperforms that. But I've kept those two because I wanted to have one that I can run betas on and one that I can actually have as like a work machine that I can take with me now. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I think if you're going to do it, I mean, I still do contract, although as of next year, probably financially, things are going to be a little bit more settled next year, so I might well start doing the same. But I don't review stuff that much. That's my thing. I'm more about the news and what's coming next. More like John Prosser does, actually.
Yeah.
He as soon as something's released, he's not interested anymore.
Yes,
his
it's news
audience
then, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm more interested in what's next. What will this mean? What features could we add next? What would make sense? Where should Apple go next?
I mean, I kind of decided it was time to bite the bullet and buy outright because, well, they almost to the penny over the 2 years, they do make their money back virtually to the exact penny of what the iPhone's worth anyway. So again, all you're actually doing is kind of taking easy finance, isn't it? You're spreading those costs out of buying the phone outright. And I was able to do it last year, and it's kind of now, at least I've broken that lock. I've done it once. I'm in the market now, so now I can just sort of trade on. And like you're saying, actually, funny enough, with the M2 MacBook Air that I've got just behind me over there, at Dub, I was thinking, well, if it was an M3 that had come out, I probably would have looked to sell that and buy the next one. But I just couldn't justify buying a 15-inch. I really couldn't, because I couldn't find anything new to talk about.
It's bigger. You
Yeah,
got
it's
to take
bigger.
measure.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I looked at it at Battersea, a lovely store, and I looked at
Yeah.
it, and yeah, it looks bigger than the 2 inches bigger that it is. It does look a
Mm,
much larger
yeah.
laptop, but of course, that's kind of it, apart from
Yeah.
the slightly different speaker system.
And honestly, I'm of the mindset that the MacBook Air is supposed to be a lightweight, small, portable
Exactly.
machine. It's not
If I could
for a, it's
shake
not a
you
battle
by the
station.
hand, I would. Yes, that's the thing. It's USP, it's portability,
Yeah.
it's how easy it is just to pack it up and take it away, and you don't know you got it with you. It's so
And you know what?
lightweight.
My first MacBook was the 11-inch MacBook Air.
Oh wow, yeah, I've still got one. I've still got one.
11.6. I've still got it as well, yeah. And it still performs. Like it's still reasonably snappy. But then I find this with all of the stuff, like the iMac G4 that's here from 2002. Like you do the magnification on the dock, it's all fluid, it's all smooth, it looks beautiful. Even the display looks nice on it. It's like how do these things keep performing? And this is like an 800 megahertz power PC. You know, it's way pre Intel.
I mean, you mentioned a minute ago about the speeds of these things. Where I record the A roll in that studio, I've got my beloved 2015 27-inch iMac.
5K.
5K, been with it. I've done so much on there. I've started companies on it. I've done all. It's got loads of great memories. You know the way you actually can get them attached to a Mac.
Yeah.
And that one of all the Macs is the one that I feel most attached to. But then when I'm in there recording and I want to say get the audio to record for the videos, and I do it in Audition. When I start editing, the M2 MacBook Air is so much faster. This tiny little 13-inch M2
With
MacBook
no
Air,
fan.
no fan that you can just like sit with the palm of one hand and use. It's crazy. It's sort of, and when I spec'd up, because it was a graphic design business I've got, and when I spec that iMac up, it's pretty well spec'd up. You know, it's higher end.
Yeah.
And then you just look at how things have moved on. It's frightening what
really
Apple
is.
Silicon's done, isn't it?
No, it's crazy. The speed differences. I mean, we're never going to get until they change completely the platform again. You know, to whatever's next after ARM, whether it's a RISC-V or whatever it might be. Yeah, that's at least a decade down the line. We're not going to have a jump that goes like we did from the highest spec MacBook Pro basically performing the same as the new entry level MacBook Air. Like
Yeah.
that's basically what we got, wasn't it? Even the fastest graphics that you could get in the MacBook Pro 15-inch, 16-inch, whatever it was in the end, basically the same as the M1 out the box. It's like,
I know it's insane. It's absolutely insane, and they're such capable machines as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's something you probably made videos and written about. I just wondered if Apple had almost shot themselves in the foot because we're going to need to change so infrequently now because they're so good.
they are in terms of just raw performance, but what they will probably put in is more in terms of the features. I think there is a reason that we haven't got, even though we've got notches on our MacBooks now, we haven't got Face ID in there yet. And I don't think it is purely a let's hold this off so that we've got a feature to add. I think it's the depth, like the physical depth of the components will not fit in the lids yet.
Right.
And I think they were expecting them to by the time that they put these MacBooks out. So I think that's something that we'll be adding. I think the other stuff that they could really do with adding is things like putting a 5G modem into MacBooks. I think that would be really fun, especially if Apple are now in the process because they bought Intel's modem business.
That's right. Yeah.
So they may well be working on that at some point soon. If we even need it, because Wi-Fi is so prevalent and hotspots are so prevalent and so smooth to use now as well.
What's the deal with a 4G camera coming to MacBooks? Sorry, not 4G, 4K.
I don't know. I don't think. Again,
Is
I
it a
think
space issue? Do you think, or
yeah, more than likely, because if you think about everyone's like, oh, you know, they've got these FaceTime cameras that are 4K now on iPhones, but look how deep your iPhone is. There's a reason that the cameras stick out the back on the one side, and the cameras don't overlap with where the island is on the front, because that depth is being used in both directions. They sort of interact on the inside. You could probably put that many pixels in there, but they would be so shallow that you wouldn't get a good image from it anyway.
yeah, yeah. So the trade-off would be we'd have to have much thicker MacBooks if we wanted a 4K camera in there.
And I think they've solved it already because look,
Continuity.
we've got continuity camera. We
Yeah.
can use these really good phone cameras that we already have with us
Yeah.
And I was saying this for about a year before continuity camera happened. The thing that I think is a great move that they're doing this year is that you compare it with your TV.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, that's new in the new OS, isn't it? In tvOS.
FaceTime on your TV, that's just a massive win.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you run the betas on your TV as well?
Hmm.
Right. So you've been able
Yeah,
to
so
check that out.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've done FaceTime on my TV with my parents. I've got the beta on my watch, so I've got Snoopy on at the minute, which you can't see because it's
Oh yes, my other
impossible
half
basically
wants
to
Snoopy
ever.
so badly.
Yeah. The one thing that is the worst thing to ever try and show on camera is an Apple Watch when you're wearing it, because as soon as you move it, it turns off, and yeah,
Yeah, you
it's
got to
great fun.
contort. Yeah.
But yeah, I've got it on here. I've got it on the M1, like the desktop Mac, not on the MacBook. I've got it on my phone. I've got it on my iPad. So
And
yeah.
later this year, I mean, we're assuming. So I did read something last week, and I wrote about it briefly. Was there was this one rumor going around that iPhone could be running late the event. I don't.
Yeah, I don't believe that
It's a grain
for a
of salt, I
second.
think. Yeah,
Nah.
yeah. So we're pretty much locked on the 12th. Is that right?
It's definitely going to be September. Whether it's the 12th or not, I don't know. It's quite often the first Tuesday. So it might be the week before that, but somewhere around there.
But there seems to be
Does it
good.
make a difference?
No, exactly. We know it's September. It's going to be the first or second week, and what seems to be locked in this year, it looks like we're going to get a second event or another event in October, doesn't it?
October's looking good, although I don't particularly agree with what Mark Gurman's saying we're going to get at it
With the M3s.
necessarily. I think we'll get M3, but I do think like putting a 13-inch MacBook Air out with M3 and not putting out a 15-inch MacBook Air with M3 makes no sense whatsoever. And if you think about when the M2s were launched, they did put out the 13-inch MacBook Pro with the Touch Bar first.
Yep.
Not by a lot, but I think that's the only thing that made them sell barely any, really. So I think they might do 13-inch MacBook Pro with Touch Bar, or maybe even without Touch Bar, hopefully. Um, and then the iMac. That would make sense to put those two out, so you've got a desktop and a laptop,
Yeah, yeah,
a lowish price laptop.
yeah. Entry prices and
I mean, I'd get rid of the Touch Bar, and if it's going to keep the old design, that's fine. Just call it the MacBook and make it the budget option again under the MacBook Air, maybe. Because the MacBook Airs have gone up a little bit in price and then come down a little bit in price again.
what's the 15-inch going for?
$12.99
Right.
in the US. We're talking
Yep.
US pricing, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
$10.99 now for the 13 and $12.99 for the 15.
Which is actually a really competitive price. 'Cause, I mean, although we both
I
said
thought it was
that-
going to be 14.
yeah, I was surprised that they came in at that price point, and clearly part of the reason they did it was knowing that the back to school market, certainly in the States, is kind of now, isn't it? When they're
Yeah,
gearing
but then
up.
they discount that there as well.
Yeah, for the
The
education
back to
system.
school, you get a discount on it, and then you get $125 in iTunes vouchers as well, or something. I think so. Yeah,
Makes
they've
it-
always done really well with the back to school stuff because recruit people early into it. It makes all the sense.
And an iMac really does tempt me. That's a machine, and particularly if it's running M3, that's almost a good excuse then because it looks lovely, and
This
it's
is-
going to performance-wise because this 3 nanometer is supposed to be pretty special, isn't it?
Assuming that M3 is going to be 3 nanometer.
I thought that was a lock-in. I thought that was going to be the case.
I thought it was as well, but I'm not as convinced anymore because I've been hearing that the next version, because finally I'm kind of agreeing that they're going to skip over one generation of the A series chips, so I think they're going to line this up again
Right.
with the A series that's coming out this year, but I think it's going to be 4 nanometer as opposed to 3. But actually 4 as opposed to the pretend 4 that they did last
Yeah,
year.
so a genuine 4, an actual new
Yeah.
4. Yeah,
I think-
I hadn't heard that. I just assumed that M3 was going to be the 3 nanometer.
I mean, I'm very much hoping it will, but we were hearing that yields have been horrific. So whether they've just gone, let's hold off on it, or, I mean, if it is 3 nanometer, amazing. And if that's also what's going into the iPhones, amazing.
Yep.
But I'm not as um, as I was. But, even if it is a process node from a 5 to a 4, that's still going to be a 20% boost on either, performance or efficiency. And then you can kind of balance it between those. And then you've also got we've redesigned what the core does bonuses as well. So, it's not just about the process shrink, but, if they were going to 3, then you're looking at 40% difference.
Because
Assuming, yeah.
the efficiency side of it's supposed to be amazingly good, isn't it? It's supposed to be almost like 35% more efficient or something, isn't it?
Something like, fingers
Yeah,
crossed. But
yeah.
then, does that matter as much for an iMac?
No, clearly not. No, no. I mean, I was thinking more there with the phones, with the new
Yeah,
Bionic chip going
yeah,
there.
of
That is going to
course.
be one with, the more battery life. I know the Pro Max is getting a larger physical battery as well, I believe, isn't it?
That's what we heard, and then I'm sure that was debunked. The source was debunked. I'm not sure if it was actually. It may still be getting a larger one, but I've got a feeling the source themselves actually said, "No, I made this up." For
So,
that, everyone was reporting at one point.
are there any juicy hot takes you've heard that maybe the rest of us haven't? Is there anything else that you're thinking we might be getting this year?
So, as far as I know, the big differences this year is going to be we're going to get Dynamic Island on the base iPhones, so the 15 and the 15 Plus. I'm assuming we're still going to get the 15 Plus because obviously that's, the minis didn't sell particularly well, but then the pluses didn't sell particularly well either. So I think when people want the base model, they're quite happy with the base model, and that's
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
We are getting, as far as we know, still titanium for the frames of the Pros, and apparently the displays themselves are getting slightly bigger because of a bezel shrink. But that's
Yep.
what we're hearing is also has caused the issues in terms of some delays. I think it's more likely to be that the supply will be constrained at the beginning. I think they will still launch on time because they've already made some and they're still making them. They just haven't made as many as they were hoping, I think. So I think that will be the case. Well, they'll launch it, but I think the dates will slip quite quickly. Um, Other than that, we're hearing the periscope lens maybe on the
Pro
Pro
Max
Max
only.
model. And we were hearing that it was going to be called Ultra, but then that seems to have been
That's
pushed off to the 16.
yeah.
But we'll see if that's actually a thing, or if someone had just gone, "Oh, they've got an Apple Watch Ultra, so they'll probably get a phone Ultra." Yeah.
And this
Um,
you mentioned a minute ago the titanium chassis.
yeah.
People keep saying about how much weight it's going to save. I look at my phone and think, how much weight can it save? Is it going to be appreciated? Surely all the weight of
I
that is
don't
basically
think
the
it's
battery
going
and
to
the
be.
glass, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a massive difference. I think the stainless steel models are noticeably heavier than the aluminium ones, but the titanium isn't going to be lighter than aluminium, as far as I can tell.
That's what I
It's
was
just that,
thinking.
and even if you make your titanium thick as the stainless is, it's not going to save much weight because it's not physically that much lighter. It's just lighter for the amount of strength that you need because you can use less of it. Um, the interesting thing will be how well they do with colouring it, I think, and how it looks. Because if you remember the titanium PowerBooks, I think it was the PowerBook that they
Yeah.
did a titanium version of. They basically had to paint over the titanium to make it look okay. They have done some patents for some dye injection stuff that goes into like a porous titanium and then a sealant that goes over it. But then, like, you're not feeling titanium in your hand. Is it going to feel less
That's what
premium? Is it going to feel more plasticky? I am hearing that we're going to get frosted glass on the back of the
On the
regular
back,
models,
yes, which
which
I
would be good,
love.
and especially if they put the ceramic shield into it, because the 12 that I've got, I've actually managed to crack the back on it, but I put a case on it and no one cares now. So, because they only put the ceramic shield on the fronts originally, I think it's on both sides of the current ones. So,
That frosted glass on the back is beautiful. It's one
it
of the
does look
most
great.
tactile.
It does look nice.
It's lovely, and the touch of it is
Yeah.
wonderful as well. And I was writing early on today saying that with the three phones sitting here, although if I was being super critical, I'd say that the iPhone perhaps looks a little dated. It is by far the most premium looking.
Like the
And
fit
by
and
far,
finish.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. When you pick it up, you know you've got something of quality in your hands. It doesn't quite come so true with the other two.
It feels solid. It feels like it feels like a tool. That's the thing. I think, which I don't think even any really like camera manufacturers have really got to that point, apart from maybe is it Leica, Leica?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know how you pronounce it.
I
The
think
one that
like
Johnny Ive did one for.
yeah.
Those guys really do kind of go for that quality feel, the art, the artifact
Yeah,
kind of thing.
there's something
Which I
about
think.
it. It is just a glorious piece of it. It just feels so lovely to touch and hold still. It really
and
does.
and and there is definitely this kind of legacy of what Johnny Ive has done in all of the Apple products, and I
Yeah.
really wanted when these new MacBook Air designs came out for them to go with the lighter colors and go along the lines that they did with the iMacs, and maybe even go to like white bezels and colors, but they obviously didn't, which is a bit annoying for me. But yeah, the iMac is an interesting one because I think they might be changing direction slightly on it, and I
Oh,
think that might be why it's taken a little bit longer and they didn't do an M2. Um,
direction in what way then?
so I think they might just do it with the darker bezels because there was so much uproar about it the first time, or there might
Right.
be an option with darker bezels and darker colours, because I love that look. I love the colours. I love the old style. I mean, I've got an iBook sitting over here, one of the blue clamshells.
Oh yeah.
And I've got a G3 iMac, which might become a project sitting in the loft because the graphics on it are dying. Last time I tried to power it up, the graphics card was on its way out, so that might get some sort of Apple Silicon inside it at some point and an LCD. We will see. Um, but it's very hard to get an LCD that's 4:3 and big enough and has any sort of resolution
Yeah, yeah.
for these things because 4:3 is dead. Um, so yeah, what I'm thinking is with the iMac, they might have also maybe thought about putting some ports on it
Oh,
because
more exports. I mean, yeah,
yeah, because right now the iMac, I mean, when you think about it, is basically the MacBook Air desktop edition.
yeah.
So it's just USB-C slash Thunderbolt, and sometimes a fun combination of those if you go for the higher end one, so you get the extra holes in it,
And you get
and
the
then
Ethernet in the power brick, don't you, on the higher end ones?
Ethernet in the power brick, which I really thought they were going to do with the MacBook Pros as well, to be honest,
Mm.
but they didn't. Um, and then what was the other thing? Oh, you get a headphone jack, but it's into the side of it because it's the only place that's got enough thickness to
Depth,
actually put it
yeah,
through.
yeah.
So I'm not sure. I could see them taking that kind of power brick hub thing and maybe doing more stuff with that, more ports on that, because there just isn't the physical depth in it to put anything else. I don't think other than USB-C, but you could put HDMI out from there.
Mm.
You could put, your Ethernet you've got. You could have, you're not going to put on USB-A ports. The only reason they're even still on the Mac Mini is so that you can plug in a keyboard and mouse when you're setting it up. That's the point of those, even though they've made them up to USB 3.
Mm.
But that's why they're there. It's not because they want to have more connectivity. It's because the whole point of this device is so that you can plug in whatever you already have and get a Mac experience.
The iMac I was tempted with when it first came out as Apple Silicon, and I'm still tempted by it now. I think they look beautiful.
Yeah,
I
it's what my
really
dad's
do.
got.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he had a 21-inch, I think, like a
Yeah,
2012
the
iMac that he
chunkier
was
one.
using
Yeah.
until it came out.
Hmm.
Um, and he'd been saying, "Oh, I want to upgrade. I want to upgrade." I was like, "Wait, wait, wait, wait until Apple Silicon comes." And I was on the brink of saying, "Just get a Mac Mini and a display." But then, as soon as this came out, I was like, "Yep, okay, go. You can get one now."
What model did he get?
So he went for the slightly uprated one. So it was the slightly bigger storage. So it was the 512, I think, and the non-bin chip. So he went for the purple. So he's got the extra ports as well on the back.
Right. Yeah. And being
So that
happy
was
with it,
the
I
higher
take
end
it.
one. So you get Touch ID and stuff with it as well. There's a
Oh,
few
of
extra
course. Yes.
little
Yeah. Yeah.
bonuses that you get on that one.
And he's been happy as with it, I take it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was a couple of apps that he couldn't run, obviously, when Apple Silicon support wasn't as good
Yeah.
right at the beginning.
It was definitely, wasn't it? You had to run things through initially.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but there was a handful of apps that just wouldn't work with that either. Not a lot, but just bits that he used. I think maybe Audacity didn't work right at the beginning, which he used to use because he does some work with one of the local charities, like recording the news, like he
Right.
voiceovers the news for them and stuff. So
Hmm.
they can send it out. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's back in the day. My dad was always quite techie. Like when I was a kid, we didn't have a Commodore 64. We had a BBC Micro. Yeah, because he was the school's guy for computers. So that's what we used to use, and then an Archimedes, and then we got our first IBM PC probably, I don't know, 92, something like that. Playing Monkey Island on it and stuff. It's good.
I remember those at school actually, the BBCs. I think that was one of the first computers I got to touch. I think, from memory. And I never really enjoyed computers at school. That's the oddest thing.
Yeah, yeah. But we had the old the turtle rolling around the floor that you basically used to like log positions, and it would draw on big bits of paper on the floor and stuff. It was like early programming and stuff. But yeah,
And
it was really fun.
sadly, just as we're about to wrap ourselves up, we've just had our somebody join in. Yash.
Hey,
It's been ridiculously quiet. I've never had a day this quiet. So I don't know what happened.
who's here?
Yash.
Yash, say hi.
Yash.
Where are you watching from, Yash?
Yash, there's going to be ads coming on in a minute, yes, and yeah, so he said hi to
Oh,
us.
as soon as we got someone watching, get
Yeah,
the
the
ads
ad's kicking in. Yeah, I feel almost embarrassed having you on with no view. I don't know what's going on today.
That's
It's
all
been
right.
very, very strange. You know what these
Yeah,
things are like. You never really know, and it's just I've
I'm
enjoyed
sure
doing them
there's
though.
some nuggets in here. I'm sure
Oh, there
there's
will
some
be.
nuggets that you
And
can use.
funny enough, the other thing is that the live views go up during the week.
Yeah.
I quite a lot, and you know, I would have thought I would have attention span. You would have thought, okay, might look. I've been worried. My last couple of videos have been over 15 minutes long. With these being an hour long, I thought no one's going to watch, but they do go up. They, you
I
know,
mean,
get a lot of views during the week.
yeah. If you having guests on, put it out as a podcast. Chuck it on Anchor or something as an extra little like
Yeah.
bonus episode
Ah,
for
see,
your thing.
yeah,
That'd be.
yes, I should put it behind a paywall, shouldn't I? Listen to Dave give you the
Yeah.
full details. Come to my
Yes.
Patreon
Exclusives.
page. So, what are you working on next then?
So I've done an unboxing of this bad boy, which is the 17-inch iMac.
Hold on, let me go back over to Riverside because it's a bit of delay on there. Hold up for me again.
Oh.
Let me have a look.
Want me to come back?
Yeah.
Want me to go again?
Where is it?
So this is the 17-inch iMac G4. So I managed to pick this up from eBay for £28.
Wow.
Boxed as well. So yeah, done an unboxing video of that, which I'm editing up. Obviously, lots of stuff with the Pico VR. Been very much enjoying that. So this was a Pico partnership I was doing for Fit XR, which is like a fitness app in it. It's really good. It's actually very enjoyable. And gamifying stuff just makes me actually do it, which is the main thing. Because I get lazy and
And
ADHD.
your next live is going to be
It might be Friday night.
Friday night, yeah. 'Cause
Maybe,
you're a
maybe.
10 o'clocker, aren't you?
Yeah, I normally do 10 o'clock on a Friday, just
Yep.
because the kids are normally in bed by then.
Yep.
And then I kind of have a little bit of time to myself. So that tends to be when I can do them. I think we'll chuck one on there, yeah.
Wicked. All right. Well, we'll come back together on this again. I think I'm enjoying these live streams. There's just a bit of a poke in the sand. You just don't know quite what's going to happen each week, which is part of the fun of it. But I know both you and I have done radio, and in essence, it's kind of the same skill set, isn't it? Just talking and filling for an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Just
With no
having a
script, no
natter
idea.
with
And,
people.
and that was the lovely thing of you saying you'd come on. It's just rather than trying to hold fort for now, it's just nice having a conversation like this. It's, you know, and
I mean,
hopefully we do it
It must
again.
be
and
very difficult when people aren't here to throw questions at you as well.
Yeah. Today,
If you've been trying to do an hour on your own,
today
on
would
your
have
own,
been
on
a
your
tough
own.
one. I'm not going to lie. Today would have been a tough one. But lovely. All right, mate. Thank you for that. I'll catch you on Friday if you're live.
No worries.
I'll come gate
I'll
crash
do
your
my very
party.
best. In fact,
And,
you know what? I'm going to schedule it now so that I don't forget.
Do it.
And
do
then
it.
I'm
Yeah,
committing.
it's a job done, isn't it? Lovely, mate. Thank you for that. I really enjoyed it.
Lovely. Nice
Okay.
to see you, Dave.
And you, mate. See you soon.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week. Cheers. Bye.